This is the iPhone 6s, and although it's a 3-year-old smartphone, I wanted a replacement for my previous phone, which was the Galaxy S4, and believe you me, that phone has so much problems. So I bought the iPhone 6s in 2018 towards December, and up to now it has been 7 months living with this phone, and it has been a sort of a love or hate relationship. One thing I like about Apple is their ecosystem, and I'm so in love with the services that Apple offers, and also the value that this phone has retained throughout the whole of this period. So without further ado, I know some of you out there are wondering, should I get the iPhone 6s in 2019 or even 2020? So again, this was a replacement of my Android phone. It was the first time I'm getting to use an iOS device, and let me say both parties have their strengths and weaknesses, but necessarily this is not going to be a comparison between Android and iPhone. I'm just going to guide you whether you should get the 6s in 2019. So without any hesitation, iOS 13 may tempt you to buy this phone in 2019 because it is the last smartphone, at least from Apple, that will be able to receive iOS 13 updates. It is quite insane that Apple still offers updates for an old smartphone. I mean, this smartphone was launched in 2015 and it's still receiving iOS updates up to this period of time. So that's one thing I like as compared to Samsung, which only offers updates for only 3 years. So that's an advantage over other Android devices. So I got the opportunity to test out the beta version of iOS 13 on my iPhone 6s, but it was so buggy. I think there were some glitches that I experienced here and there, so I decided not to take the risk. I reinstalled iOS 12 back into my smartphone and decided that I would stay with iOS 12 until the official version of iOS 13 will be released. So for those who are curious to update to the beta software, there's no much issues. It's a very nice software, but just to keep you safe, just to prevent any loss of data, I'd advise that you come back to iOS 12. So we are planning to do an iOS 13 review on this device once it officially launches. So stay tuned to my channel. I'm going to do a review. It's still a very attractive piece of hardware. I mean, look at the design of the smartphone. It has that aluminum build, which I like. It really makes the phone premium to hold. And it also brings some sense of pride, at least when you're using the iPhone. It has this gold color which I love, and it looks attracting to the eyes. It's a very solid phone. It really feels nice on the hand, and it's also durable, at least with that 7000 series aluminum, so that's an advantage. So up to date I can say that this is such a nice piece of hardware. Just be careful enough because it's very slippery. So you may want to invest in a case like, for example, this one right here. The camera is and still remains to be one of the best aspects about this phone. So this iPhone comes with a 12 megapixel camera with an aperture of f2.0. I don't take many pictures with this phone, but let me say the moment I remove my phone and take a picture, I'm always impressed with the picture quality it produces. I mean, there's so much dynamic range in the photos that you take. It exposes sections of the photos very well. They really look appealing. And also I like the fact that sometimes it can be sharp, but also sometimes it loses details. It all depends on the kind of lighting conditions that you use. Of course, it doesn't have OIS, so the videos are really shaky, but that's one thing you have to cope up with. This camera also comes in with 4K video recording, so that's an advantage for those people who want to venture into 4K recording, but it consumes a lot of space, so you have to tone it down a bit because you don't want to finish the storage space on your iPhone, especially if you have the 16GB model, which I'll not recommend, by the way. Despite it being an old device, it's still a speedy device, and this is noticeable especially when scrolling through apps or when scrolling through the home screen. It is really fluid, the animations are really nice, they're really responsive, and also I like the way iOS 12 on this phone feels speedier despite it being a 3-year-old device. The only issues that you'll find is that sometimes it may take long to launch some apps, but it's still a fast device nonetheless. I can say that this phone still feels fast despite it being this old, and that's one thing I think Samsung owners should take into consideration about Apple phones. So apart from these compliments, you also have other small bits that make this phone as good as it looks. At least these small gimmicks might be an advantage if you're looking for a phone which is cheaper in 2019. We have the 3D touch feature, which I absolutely love in this phone. It's really handy, especially if you want some faster shortcuts. You have good speaker quality, I really love it. We also have a very good sharp display. That's one thing I like about this phone. On top of that, you have a headphone jack. Yes, a headphone jack in 2019. That's very important. It has a fast fingerprint sensor, and that's an advantage, especially for the new iPhone models which have Face ID. Most people don't like Face ID, so this is an advantage right here. And it also has a very good vibration motor. It's really strong, so you'll notice it, and it's also quiet, so it won't be firing, especially in silent places. So some of the downsides that may make you not go for this phone, of course, is the battery life. Battery life is one weak aspect about this phone. I mean, if you use this phone with a 100% of charge, you'll get an average screen time of only 3 hours and 30 minutes, which is below the average rating for batteries, at least in 2019. But if you keep your iPhone in low power mode, you're going to achieve a prolonged battery life only by about, let's say, 1 hour or 1.5. So keeping your device in low power mode is essential. It also lacks OIS. I think that's one thing that really bothers me. It doesn't bother other people, but it really bothers me because the videos can be so shaky and it might be irritating sometimes. This is the last update that you're going to get on the iPhone 6s. So you not receive iOS 14, iOS 15, iOS 13 is the last one. The iPhone 6 does not receive any updates anymore because iOS 12 was the last one. So this one will receive iOS 13 as the last one, meaning that iPhone 7 next year will receive iOS 14 as the last one. We are not sure, but that's the pattern, at least the way we have seen. So if you want to future-proof yourself or you want to receive iOS 14, I'll recommend that you go for the iPhone 7 or even the iPhone 8 or even newer models, so as to future-proof yourselves. Also, this smartphone has some outdated CPUs, so you might notice that sometimes it might be a bit slower, although the software is consistent, but then the performance may not be top-notch. Let's say, for example, the iPhone X. The iPhone X feels way faster than the iPhone 6s. So that's one thing you'll have to take into consideration. So the main reasons why you go for the iPhone 7 is because the iPhone 7 looks modern as compared to the 6s. If you're somebody who's very critical on updates, iPhone 7 will offer you iOS 14 at least. So you are going to get more software updates at least up to next year. It's also water resistant. That's something I really like. It also has stereo speakers, meaning that it uses the earpiece and also the down-firing speakers together to bring that stereo effect, especially when listening to audio. So that is something you have to keep into consideration, of course. It has a better battery life, at least. It's more bigger than the one found on the 6s, so you're going to get an extended battery life. It has a wider display gamut. It also has a tactic home button compared to the 6s home button. I mean, when you have the 6s, you will notice the difference, especially when clicking. So if you want a phone that feels like you're pressing on a button, but then it's just the work of the vibration motor to give that sensation that you're clicking a button, this is the way to go. You may also opt to go for the iPhone 8 because it has wireless charging. If you're somebody who is into that, you can also have the True Tone display, which I really love. It also has a very powerful chip. It also has an all-glass unibody design. So in conclusion, it's still a good phone. I'm not discouraging anyone. You can still buy it, but I'll recommend the iPhone 7. It's almost similar to the 6S plus that extra money that you're going to pay. It's really worth it. So go for the iPhone 7. So that's it for my review, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I've been a host, Maxwell.